Good day, thanks for joining us on One on One. My name is Mary Chinda. The program today promises to be really exciting as we have a special guest in the studio. He was a one-time student leader and now the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, AAC, the 47-year-old Omoyele Sowore from Ondo State. He will be joining us right after this break. Your party and yourself, being the presidential candidate, was recently excluded from the presidential debate scheduled to hold in January, and of course the vice-presidential debate. How do you feel about this?
It's not about how I feel about it. It's about how the country felt about it. And immediately it happened, it became the first time in the history of Nigeria that a presidential debate, it was challenged, and rejected. I mean, the lineup for a presidential debate was rejected and challenged by the public. So there's been a lot of disappointment by people who were really looking forward to a real debate between the old guards, as we call them, and people with fresh ideas. And we wanted to go there and really challenge their records and their ideas and their plans, and also lay out our own plans for Nigerians to see and then judge who is best fit to become the president of Nigeria next year. So that's how it stands now. But we've challenged it, and we intend to even file a lawsuit in court to ensure that a court of competent jurisdiction forces the people who made the decision to include us and ensure that this don't happen again to Nigerians.
Okay, away from filing a lawsuit and all of that, do you think that your exclusion was politically motivated?
Absolutely, it was politically motivated.
Why do you think so?
Politically motivated. First, they did an open poll and found out that we came third. That is, our party and my person came third behind the APC and the PDP, and then decided, according to them, to do other things, including, as they claimed, research, surveys that was not revealed to the public. So nobody knew how they arrived at the conclusions that they arrived at. Most importantly, when the executive secretary, I think, of the National Election Debate Group, when a series was interviewed or challenged by people, he said in addition to all of the other variables, they also consider character. So it was never revealed to Nigerians that they have the right to judge people's character. It was for them to place candidates before the Nigerian people and for Nigerian people to decide who to vote for based on their own judgment, including a judge of character. So it was definitely a rigged process.
Talking about your your tour across the country, let's look at your tour of 100 cities across the country. Particular interest is your tour to Daura,
yes,
which is the home country of the sitting president. What was your experience like?
It was amazing. We came in there at night because, of course, due to bad road, we couldn't get there on time. We were coming in from Kazuare in Jigawa State. And when we arrived there, people on our team were a little scared. This is Buhari's hometown. What's going to be their reaction? But we were surprised. He met us at the city gate. Of course, the village his town or city was in darkness, no light. And they escorted us through the town. They were chanting that, there's...
Do you mean there was no light as at the time you arrived,
yes,
or there was practically
well, at the time we arrived,
no light at all?
There was no light when we arrived, and we didn't see light before.
Yeah, but that's normal. I mean, Nigeria does not have a 24
I'm just telling you, part of the reasons why we need a new president in town. What was interesting is they accompanied us across the city, and they started saying, no more say Baba. It is time for say Bobo, which is, they don't want an old person, they want a young person. It was amazing, and then we addressed them as we were leaving, and they even asked that we come back the next day, but we had other plans, so we had to go to another city as part of the tour. It was amazing.
going for presidency is actually what you need to do at this time? Or what convinces you that you're actually going to win?
So, to be president of a country, you don't...
Without any kind of experience whatsoever,
just listen to me. For you to be considered as someone who's experienced, you must have been president before. And we've had two people who have been president before who have come back as president. President Olusegun Obasanjo, who used to be a military president, of course, current President Buhari, who used to be head of state, a military head of state. And these guys have failed miserably with all the experience they gathered. Some of them have been former petroleum ministers, they've governed states. Look at where they left us. When people are talking about experience, I think they mean that, for you to be qualified, you have to have experience in stealing, You have to have experience in political thuggery, in assassination. That's the kind of experience they're talking about. But now let me tell you my own experience. My experience is almost 30 years old as a political activist in this country who is engaged with every political decision in the last 10 years that has had far-reaching impact and effect on Nigeria. I've been part of it, starting with fighting against the military and bringing about democratic rule in Nigeria in 1999. I was one of the major persons in this country. I was a student at the University of Lagos. And when I stopped being a student, I continued on the street organizing young people until 1999. There's records all over the place to show for it. There's even a video record of me standing behind Bashir Remke Abiola in 1993 when I was 22 years old, standing for what is right to de-annul that election. After all of that ended, we had democracy in 1999. What has been my experience fighting for the expansion of the democratic space in the country? What did I do? I fought against third term in this country. That's political experience. I fought to help enthrone a minority, Goodluck Jonathan, to become president using Sahara Reporters, reporting extensively on the illness that killed former president or late president Umaru Yar'Adua. I've been engaging politically. I've set up one of the finest media companies around this country and even on the continent of Africa that is competing, with any media company around the world in breaking news, investigative reporting, and reaching out to people and, helping them to actually gain political power to determine their fate. Those are experiences that you cannot discountenance. The only experience I don't have, like I mentioned to you, is that I've never been involved in stealing and corruption. I've never assassinated anybody before. I've not been a contractor to government. I've not been a crony to anybody in government. So I come with clean hands and great experience, but positive as opposed to negative experience that will impact this country. And you see that countries that are in need of progress are always looking for people with my kind of experience and resolve. And that's why you have a lot of young people running countries like France, Canada. Obama was 48 years old when he became the president of the US with no experience. He only spent maybe a few months in the Senate. He was a junior senator. In fact, his only experience when he became the president of the US was that he was a community organizer. When Mandela became the president of South Africa, he had just come from jail. Would you consider that experience? If you do so, then you should think about my own experience too, doing the same kind of thing they were doing growing up. So,
Mr. Sowore, I was just going to ask, what makes you think that you have what it takes to be a replacement for President Muhammadu Buhari?
So I will say this to you as well, that I will not be a replacement. I will be a better president than all of the other old people combined together.
Yeah, we've had a lot of lines like this, and
but you can judge me by my records. You can judge me by my pedigree. You can judge me by my history. You can judge me by my integrity. You can judge me by my resolve. Everything that I said I would do when I was a student, I accomplished it.
Yeah,
before I left the university.
Several years ago.
Yes, everything I said I would do, as an adult, I've accomplished it. I wanted to set up a media company that would liberate the country. I did. I wanted to, make an impact in everywhere. Anything I touch, I've done it. So what else do we want? You want someone to drop from the skies, Yes, if it is, I'm dropping from the skies too, but not
Well, a lot of people
in a magical way.
A lot of people,
Because to a lot of people who don't know these things, they are going to hear it for the first time, that you're talking to someone who's been engaged with the political process in Nigeria for so long and has experience. Again, judge my experience, judging positivity of my experiences, and the fact that not only do I have experience, I've also suffered in the course of gathering the kind of experience that I have. So you said a lot of people?
well, a lot of people would have thought that as soon as you nurtured this desire to run for presidency, you would have joined any of the popular parties, the APC or the PDP, but you went ahead to form your own political party.
That's correct.
Why did you do that?
Because a lot of people out there too who are looking for the kind of revolutionary change we plan to bring don't want to have anything to do with any of these tainted political parties. Nobody wants to have. So that's why we started as a movement first and then formed a party, after the movement had been around for a long time. And this has been done transparently. Everybody has followed us in the last 9 months, know that we started somewhere and we're heavily onto something now.
Okay, Mr. Sowore, you want to be president of Nigeria.
That's correct.
What exactly would you do differently? What would you do that has not been done before?
Yes. So this is what I'm going to start doing. Well, is to govern, which hasn't been done before, right? People have just been here doing try and error with governance. And in governing, we are going to do a number of things immediately. I'm not governing with asking you to measure my success or not after 100 days. I'm going to start governing the first day I'm sworn in as the president of Nigeria. And starting to govern will include, securing this country and making sure that Nigerians are safe, security. Starting to govern means that we will rapidly increase the supply of electricity by bringing a mix of ways of improving what we have now from 3,000 to 24,000 megawatts. Starting to govern means that we are providing over 5 million jobs within the first 2.5 or 3 years of coming to office. Starting to govern means that we are building this country. We're turning into a construction site where over 17 million houses that needed to be built will be built the same way they did in China. Starting to govern means that we are hiring teachers to teach kids we are taking off the street, 30 million of them. Starting to govern means that we end the war that is happening now in the country with Boko Haram and close the loop of our security so that our herdsmen will stop killing farmers. Starting to govern means we also have health care for everybody in the country. Starting to govern means that we stop the looting of our treasury by ensuring that people who are doing it are stopped from doing it, and the ones that have done it are made to refund or pay for their crime against the people of this country. Starting to govern means that we become self-sufficient and that we're secure and that we have a country where our economic system is sustainable and is all-inclusive. Starting to govern means that we pay our workers, a living wage, not a minimum wage. So starting to govern means that there will be a commander-in-chief of the armed forces, not an excuse-in-chief or excuser-in-chief of the nation. So these are a variety of things. Starting to govern means that we recruit our best hands and best brains to come back and fix this country. So you become the chief human resource officer of the country. And we have ample examples. In fact, so many of the ideas that I brought into this country in the course of campaigning to be president in the last 9 months have been adopted, in some cases outrightly stolen by people in power, but they can't implement it because they don't have the capacity to do it. So we're going to have a complete switchover from the analog brain leaders to a digital era, because we have young people who are waiting for their potential to be unleashed on the world. We have ways through which we can bring in an economic system that is progressive, that will bring prosperity, and that will bring progress to this country. And that is not going to be possible under these other guys that you said have made the promise. They made promises before they didn't make any commitment because they didn't even understand the promises that they made to the people, because they don't have the capacity and the capability and the character to lead. I do.
Okay, you have an 8-point agenda. And I'm looking at education, one would wonder, why do you think you need to hire, pump in another 200,000 teachers
Yes.
To the education system? We're complaining that we do not have qualitative education. So adding 200,000 teachers, does it to you in any way solve the issue that we have in the educational system?
Yes, we have 13 million kids out of school. You need teachers to teach them when we bring them out of the streets. And I am a product of public education, right? I attended a local authority primary school and went to a community high school and attended the University of Lagos. All these things are public schools. All these educational institutions are public schools. They are owned by the public, or somehow, they are public run outlets. And here I am finding out that in 2018, I'm the one who is paying for teachers in my former school, my former secondary school, to be able to teach students who are going to write WAEC. I had to pay for 3 teachers. The government is not paying, and government is not willing to pay, because the people in government are more interested in sending their children to private schools or sending them abroad. And what happens to the rest of the kids who are out there? So what we're doing with 200 teachers is training them for 6 months first, and then unleashing them to teach the kids that were taken off the street, so that I can make it a crime for a parent to send their child to be hawking on the streets if they are within school age, but without providing the teachers and the public schools or the public space to teach these kids. You cannot even criminalize sending children. Parents who send their children to go and hawk. I've lived in the U.S. for 19 years. If my kids don't show up in school twice, a police officer will come to my house and find out why your kid's not in school. This is not going to be the teacher as a police officer, because it's a law and order issue for parents to send their children to school. And that's what we intend to do here. So we don't have enough teachers. There's no doubt about it. We don't have well-trained teachers. We don't have public schools that are well-equipped to train our kids. And, what I'm saying here is that it's not just, sending 200 teachers, which I think are grossly inadequate. This is just a starting point. We're also going to do the same for our universities, fund the universities properly. We've done our calculation, and if we spend 100,000 per child to go back to school every year, we will only spend 1.3 trillion naira, and that investment will be worth, gazillions of naira in the future. Let me give you an analogy. It takes, the federal government of Nigeria claims that they spend, I think, 14,000 naira on a prisoner. To feed a prisoner, I think, is it per day? Yeah. So if you calculate that per year, imagine how much it costs to send somebody, to keep someone in prison. So we are not spending the same on our university graduates. I'm going to go beyond just teachers.
One would think,
I'm also going to give study, allowances to students, so that every semester that you stay in school, you get paid. And when you get out and you work for the government or work in a public space, you get these grants forgiven. But if you don't, you pay us back with interest.
Okay, one would think that looking at the education, the 8-point agenda with focus on education, you would be saying that you are going to work towards tailoring the curriculum to suit the needs, the practical needs of modern-day Nigeria, rather than the backwards curriculum that we've always had.
You didn't ask me about curriculum. Of course, I agree with that, but you're not going to teach a new curriculum with no teachers. Definitely. You need teachers to teach students any kind of curriculum. Curriculum is something that can be taken care of by a committee or a group of persons. Definitely, I agree with you. My daughter, in the US, has more books on her shelf than my secondary school in Ondo State. that tells you something. Everything is backward in this country, but curriculum is not as important as teachers. Even the curriculum to get the teachers up to date and on par with other teachers who are training kids around the world who we are going to compete with in the future need to be changed. I agree completely with you on that one. We need teachers.
Looking at power,
yes.
You have power, you've got security, infrastructure, corruption, restructuring, economy, healthcare, and education. But looking
tourism and agriculture as well.
All right, looking at education.
It's called Spicer Heat. There are 10. We have it 10-point agenda.
Okay, so looking at corruption, you are advocating for a life ban of convicted corrupt officials. Do you not think that's a little bit to the extreme?
No, you know that the moment someone steals money that's meant for kids to go to school, they have banished those kids to ignorance, diseases, and probably life of crime, their entire life, right? The moment monies that are meant for people in the healthcare sector are stolen, you have killed people, right? When we are talking about life ban, it's equivalent to saying that someone who committed mass murder is going to go to life imprisonment. In other places, they don't do that. In China, if you do that, they will shoot you. But I don't believe in capital punishment, because I'm a human rights activist. So life ban is, at the minimum, the least you can do to someone who is found to have corruptly enriched themselves to the extent that they have mortgaged the future of generations of persons in the country. I think it is a mild punishment compared to what corruption has done to this country.
All right. Well, to the issue of the electoral bill, which the president has refused to accent to. Your opinion, what do you think would be the effects of the president not agreeing to accent to the bill, especially with the issue of vote buying and vote buying?
I don't know that the electoral bill, as presently designed, is going to stop vote buying. So just be clear about that. But I want a new electoral law, particularly a section of it that allows electronic transmission of results of election, to become law, so that, the manipulation that would happen can be corrected. So if people are voting and they stand and make their position known, and as soon as the voting is done, what the electoral law, as I learned now, says is that the transmission should be done electronically to a central database. And that's very important for someone like me who has digital inclinations. So, but I have also been saying it, and I will say it here again, that, I do not trust the lawmakers who made the law enough because I have not read completely the new electoral law. I want to be very clear about it, but I will do that. But I'm aware that the reason why the president doesn't want to sign is because this might frustrate some of their plans to rig the election, because they're really jittery right now.
All right, you've constantly condemned the reality of godfatherism in Nigerian politics, and a lot of people are looking out and then wondering how exactly you'll be able to raise enough funds for your campaigns. What are you doing with regards to this?
We have just 2 months to go. I've been campaigning for 9 months, non-stop. Traveled all over Nigeria and around the world, pretty much, with Nigerians, and have somehow been able to manage to fund the process publicly by crowdfunding. So I set up a GoFundMe page, and I've raised, at this point, I think we're close to about $106,000 raised online. And we also set up a local bank account in Nigeria, and we've raised over 40 million naira, and that's the money we're spending. What it shows to you is that the expectation of the public is not for people who have realistic, realistic desires to help the country. They are not going to bribe, and the public is also not expecting us to bribe them with bread, gari, and branded rice and clothing. they want genuine change. And that's how we've been able to run a very lean and compact campaign that's taking less. And this is something I think the whole country or the world should understudy for the future. How you can spend less on a campaign and have the most impact. That's what we've done. But it's been transparent. We're raising funds online. We're asking for support, and people who cannot give funds are giving homes that they have. They're giving us vehicles to brand. They're giving us megaphones. They're sending us all kinds of support. And that has what has kept us going. And we've done marvelously well, I must say, in the last 9 months. And I think it's something that should be understudied for the future.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Sowore, speaking with us, the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress. This is why we call it a wraps on 101 today. Thanks for watching.